What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the locker room. I am your host and your favorite Kansas City girl, Kennedy Bright. And as always, what is said in the locker room stays in the locker room. Get your playbooks ready, guys. Okay, so first off, I just want to clear everything up. I am back home in Kansas City until I head off to California next week. It is my birthday next week. I'm meeting some people. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a vibe. And I just love having a birthday actually in the NFL offseason. It's just great. But the only reason that I'm even saying that is actually relevant to the podcast is because if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably like, girl, where are you? And if you are listening on any podcast apps, you're probably like, what am I listening to? Yes. So, like, all my ring lights, my tripods, my podcast, mic, everything is back home in Texas, in Dallas. So, yeah, there's that. But I wanted to get you guys an episode. You deserve it. I'm hype. I'm really motivated this week. So I said, I'm still going to record it. I'm not going to let no monkey stop my show. Okay. In honor of my merch, officially official, if you know what I mean. If you know, dropping and people actually buying my merch, which like was blowing my mind. I officially like made the announcement, got all my samples last week and everything. People have been actually on the website buying it. And I was like, that's thank you. And if you guys do purchase my merch, please go ahead and tag me when you first order it. Tag me when the packages come, when you take pictures, send them to me, everything. This week, I also started the Athletes Anonymous support group. You guys have been getting on me for about a year now. Everyone's wanted me to do some type of group chat, some type of support group, whatever. And I wanted to come up with the best way possible to make sure that it was something that was not going to be toxic. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, I am wearing some of my merch. This one says send help on the front, and on the back, it's got a whole quote. The group chat is invite only, but the link to get into the group chat and all my merch and everything on KCLockerRoomTalk.com. You can get all those links in any of my platforms linked in my bio. In today's episode, from the title, as you already have seen, it is the origin story of defensive backs in Kennedy. DBs. Like, let's get into it, okay? After making a few different TikToks over the past year that had like blown up about DBs, like it was honestly just a joke. Best selling merch right now, best selling hoodie is the one that says send help on the front, and on the back it says he's a defensive back. So I said, okay, clearly people get it. I really want to start off this year with something fun, lighthearted. One thing I do want to jump in here and say is this story and the stories I'm going to be telling today are from like 7 years ago. One thing that I've discovered is the power of privacy and respecting the privacy of others. Like, just think you basically have signed an invisible. For me, one thing, not even for them, but for myself, is something that I'm starting to do is just be more private. So, like, when I start going to games to see a guy play, like, I'm not going to post it. When I go see a guy, like, I'm not going to post it. Like, power of privacy is something that's just, oh my God, it's honestly just like, beautiful. And I always said from the beginning, anything I talked about on my podcast, for instance, would always be past tense. It never would be current. And that is something that I really want to stick to because from, the experience I've already talked about here on my podcast that I've had with like girls, there was another one that happened like not too long ago. I've just really realized and understood that the power of privacy is just so important, and I want you guys to do that too. A friend who was talking to a guy in the league for like over a year now. This man is like very top tier, and it was just how the groupies and the girls are and stuff. It was just better and more intimate. When she goes to his games, and like I know and our other friends know, like on close friends, but like I'm always like, that's some good content. But sometimes your relationship is better than your content. Everyone doesn't need to know that you're at a game, that like just don't, because there are people out there who are just super malicious. There are people out there who really are just messy. I honestly recommend like everyone else try that, especially if you are talking to athletes. Just don't talk about it, don't post it. And going into 2022, which I mean, it's already started, but you know what I mean. We're still at the beginning, going into these seasons and stuff. I do not mind, you know what I'm saying, like giving you guys content as in regards to, like I said, topics of past experiences or things like that, or still giving like outfit ideas, stuff like that. Like I totally do not mind. But one thing I am going to continue to do and stick to is keeping those relationships private. And as much as I would love, oh my God, to post like it looks cute. Oh my God, I went to an NFL game. Oh my God, he flew me out. Like you love it, but you don't even know who's watching you. Like you do not know. So honestly, when people see something happening and good, they want to do things to tear it down. So just, girl, stay off the TikTok. Don't do it. Keep it private. I think private is always better, which that is another episode. Maybe that'll be this next week's episode, but I want to just jump in here real quick and say that to you guys because I do want to make sure people understand that anything I discuss on this episode is like 7, 8 years old. These relationships were, and I've had more, but I just don't want to talk about them clearly here just because of the privacy of the other person and someone that is really important to me who he just doesn't like. He sometimes be thinking everything's about him, so some stuff is just not about him, okay? They all just kind of do the same things. But I want to respect the privacy of that person and I want to respect my peace, the privacy in my peace. And I recommend that you guys totally do the same. Just let you know I'll be giving no more updates on me and guys I talk to or anything like that. So if I'm talking like I'm single and stuff, that's why. I need that sanity and that peace for myself and I don't need people or anyone in my business. So yeah, let's get into it. So let's get into it because y'all know I can talk. It started in a time long, long ago. No, okay, I'm kidding. So this story goes back to my freshman year of college, the good times. And mind you, at this point, I really thought I knew football. I thought I knew a lot about it. I wouldn't, of course, not call myself an expert, but I thought I knew the sport. And through this experience, I learned I really only know offense. Okay. So I'm new to school and I'm sitting outside like the hallway waiting for like my class to start. And it's this dark skinned boy that walks in. He's got a beard, really nice waves. He has his Jordans on. I'll never forget. He had on this blue and it was like a light blue and white hoodie, and he walks in. I know his backpack, and I can't believe I can't remember it right now. Well, anyways, he walks in. I have my beats on, I have my laptop out, and I'm doing my best to really like act like just don't talk to me. I just wasn't interested. So I'm sitting here, and I could tell, like, I could see him kind of looking out the corner of his eye, like he sits on the same bench next to me, and I could tell he wants to like say something. And I'm like, please don't, just don't talk to me, like just don't say anything. So finally, eventually, he gets up, he walks away. I'm like, thank you, good gosh. So eventually it's time for my class to start. I get up to walk into my class. I walk into the class, y'all, the boys in the class. I said, okay, here we go. And this funny thing is actually get embarrassed by the teacher the first days. So there's that. I'm like, great, he's in my class. It's now the next day and I have a new class. Like it's literally the first week of college. I sit down and, I'm already in class. This boy walks in. The same boy walks in. I remember this time he had on all black. Like I remember it to this day. Oh my God, I can't believe I remember this. He comes, he sits next to me, he goes, "You're I'm sorry, like you're in Dr. J's class, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." "Oh yeah, like what you think so far? Like, you think it's gonna be good?" He's just chatting me up. Long story short, we end up talking about sports and I'm like, "Yeah, I run track, I play soccer." He's like, "Oh, that's great," and all this or whatever. And somehow he like brings up the fact that he's there, he plays football. I'm like, "Oh, you play football? Like what position?" I know football. What position are you, or whatever? And he's like, he said DB. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He says defensive back. I'm still like, I'm lost. He goes, I'm a safety. I'm like, what's a safety? He's like, a safety is a defensive back. I'm the last line of defense, so everything comes through me. It's my job, to take care of whoever gets through. So I'm like, oh, okay. And the funny thing is, the way that I actually learn sports still to this day is by guys I've talked to. So I'll know a guy's position based off of a guy I've talked to and how he described to me his position. So, like for instance, when Tyrann Mathieu came to the Chiefs, I was like, "Oh my god, he's a safety. He's a last line defense. And for the sake of the story, his name's Rowan." I was like, "He's Rowan's position." So it was funny because that's honestly how I learn, and that's a tip for you guys. That kind of helps me. Well, to speed up the timeline and everything from here, literally, we spend every second together. We do all our school projects together. He's in all my classes except one, and we literally do everything together, all our projects, all our homework together. We sit by each other in class, we get in trouble together. We would sit in the library for hours. We would be in the library talking, chatting. We used to like write each other's names on like our hand. Like everyone knew we were a thing. Everyone knew like it was not a secret. We would, hang out in his room sometimes. Eventually, that didn't start till like a month later or something. He'd be like, "Oh, okay." And we just would hang out till, he would go to football and he would let me stay in his room when he would go to like training, because right now I transferred in the spring. So at this point he's in like spring football, so he's still training even though like it's not the actual season. Like we're always like cuddling and everything, like it's nice, right? And for Valentine's Day I really want this like thing, this like pillow thing. I threw it away now, but I really want this like pillow thing. So I had class, so he went and got it for me or whatever. And when I went to his room, I saw two, and he said it was for his roommate, but we'll talk about that. One day, y'all, we even went and searched for a Bible for him. He wanted a Bible because he said he needs to read the Bible. He wanted to, get closer to God again. And I was like, really? And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm just so flattered because my he's been a youth pastor, youth minister my whole life. So I'm like, this is gonna get some brownie points with my dad. So I'm like, Dad, we need help. He needs to looking for a Bible. We couldn't find one on campus. Like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So my dad goes, gets him a Bible, gets his name engraved in it, and like, I sign it and all that. I give him the Bible. Funny thing is, like, several months later, like it's like the whole next semester, my dad brings me something to school. Oh, I just said his name. Okay. My dad, months later, my dad met Rowan. My dad met Rowan, and my dad freaked out because he thought Rowan was gonna be like dirty and like stinky and like, like he thought he was someone that was like poor and like he didn't know he was gonna be fine. Okay. He didn't know like he was like I was talking to him like that. He's like, I thought he was like a kid in need. And I was like, no, because there's a kid in my class who was like that. And my dad thought he was picturing that boy. And I'm like, sorry, wrong kid. But yeah, so things were going good. And at one point, it's now about April, and it kind of was just like, I don't even remember at this point. It did get a little tiffy. Like, I don't remember, but it did. So there's this guy, it's not April. This guy in my class. His name is Rick, and he's a very important person in this story. And to give you an idea of what he looked like, he looks like Little Dirk. Okay. But he's like, I don't know how tall Little Dirk is, but this dude's tall. Okay. So he's on the football team too. He was super nice. He was tall. Funny thing is, he had dreads, excuse me, they're called locks now, but they look like he just had twists, like two strand, like twist. I know that's what dreads are, but like his hair just looked twisted. Anyways, like, like you take it out every day and let your afro. So he's like tall. He was like light skinned. That's normally not my type, as you know, but he was like super nice. Like my caliber. We were just friends. He drove a Challenger. And now that like I don't know what kind of car it was at the time because I wasn't into like knowing the differences. But he had a Challenger, and I know that mug was roaring. And as y'all know, if it ain't roaring, then it's boring. Okay. And I'm pretty sure now that I think about it, it probably was like a Hemi engine, probably. I'm guessing. Because I don't think it was a Hellcat. I don't know. But the point is, nice car, the dude had money, okay? Like, let me tell you. So, he was real nice, like, we would talk after class, he'd be like, "Oh, like, you wanna go get some donuts or whatever?" I would take him to, like, these donut places, and he would drive and stuff. Because at this time, my car had stopped working, like, months before, and I hadn't gotten my new one yet. So, we would just be, vibing, we doing our thing, and like I said, Rick is on the football team. So now, like I said, we're in April. I'm at this school event, and I'm sitting with, like, the basketball players. We were all friends and stuff, and Roman gets brought up. And, everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, he was with me," and basically just saying, like, I was stupid, kind of, how they are, but he's also, like, with this girl, and we're gonna call her Kaylee. So I'm like, "No, like, that's crazy, like, what do you mean?" They're basically trying to say, like, "He's out here in these streets," and I was like, "That's a lie. He's not out here in the streets, like, it's impossible, like, I'm with him all the time, number 1, and 2, he just got here like I did, like, I just transferred here, and he was a transfer, but he was a year older than me, like, Kennedy, he came in the fall. He's been here the whole semester before you. You're trying to tell me, like, you didn't think he wasn't in no sheets. You know what I'm saying?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not saying I don't think he was, like, not." You know what I'm saying? I didn't think it, okay? I did not think that way because he was super nice, and like I said, they're talking currently, not like past, not like before I got there, before we became a thing. I'm trying to connect all these dots, like, it's not adding up, and they're like, "Yeah, you're always with him, but remember, you don't live on campus." I didn't. They were like, "So, you're with him all throughout the day, but when you leave at nighttime, guess what? Hello, like, it's free game." So I'm like, "Okay, you know what? Bet." I'm like, "Who is Kaylee anyways? Who is she? Like, show me her." She plays on the volleyball team. They show me her, and I literally recognize her. You wanna know why I recognize the girl? And so, of course, this is pre-COVID too, like, years before COVID even existed, so there's no mask, nothing. So, like, me and this girl are constantly always making eye contact, like, she always kept popping up, she was always staring at me, and I would just, like, smile and wave, like, "Hi," I thought it was just because 'cause I'm, like, super pretty. So, I'm like, "Of course she's looking at me." No, she's looking at me because she's messing with the same dude I am. So, whole time she knew that I existed, but I didn't know she existed because that's how it always is. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it straight. If it would ever happens, I am not the side in the situation, okay? So, didn't know at all that she existed, but like I said, she knew Kennedy existed. And I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" So I'm like, "All right, bet, bet." One thing about me, when I find out some heat, when I find out anything, I don't say things through text message. I don't say things through the phone. I like saying it to your face. Like I wanna look you dead in your face, and Imma unload everything I know on your ass. Like that's the only time I have patience. A lot of times I don't have patience. I have to hurry up and say something. I can't wait till I see you. That is the one time I can wait. Your face. I don't know, something about that face-to-face contact. I need to see everything I need to know. I still don't exactly fully get in touch with him. Like I said, it's just been like some BS going on. Anyways, I was staying on campus that night because we had KU relays the next day. So it was an event on campus. I went to that first. And then I met this guy. And I met him like weeks before this and stuff. He was on the basketball team. That was the first red flag. This basketball player was really fake nice. I hung out with him before, and the time I hung out with him before, I even like spent the night there. And like we didn't do anything. He was cool. He didn't try to like get me to do nothing. We just vibed. We just hung out. He even had like a they had a basketball like banquet or something the next day, or like a coaching clinic for some kids. So he even let me just sleep. I just stayed the night, slept the whole time. I woke up and like, "Oh, shoot," and I left. And he was like, "Oh, why'd you leave? Like, I really wanted you to still be here when I got back from, like, the camp." And I'm like, "I wasn't gonna still be up in your place. Like, that's weird." So, he was cool. Nothing. This night, I go over there and he was like, "You wanna," like, he had my movie. Jump in the Broom is my movie. Because if you know me, people always like to say, "I'm bougie, I'm whatever." Okay, fine. But the point is, my family, I always tell people, make this joke. My family is from Mississippi. They are very southern. They are very like bougie, okay? Like they country. Don't get it twisted. They but they're like very bougie. And my grandparents very give off the we own slaves vibes. You know, like in the movie when she says that, like we would never say that. But that's just the vibe they give off. So I love that movie. And everyone's always like, that's how you're gonna act as a bride. So I'm like, you got this movie, hit it on DVD. And I'm like, what? I'm watching my movie. I'm trying to enjoy myself, and trigger warning, but long story short, he pushes himself on me. I literally freak out. I'm trying to get him off me. I'm crying, like everything. And mind you, at this time, this is my freshman year of college, and my assaults that do happen when I'm in college don't actually ever haven't happened yet. So this to me is terrible. So I'm freaking out, I'm crying, and he's like trying to tell me to like shut up or whatever. So I get off my phone, I'm trying to text Rowan. I'm like, where are you? Like at this point, like we hadn't like really been talking, but at this moment, like I need you. Like something serious is going on. I'm contacting him, trying to get a hold of him. He's not answering his phone. We had another friend who's on the football team. He not answering his phone. So I contact his friend. We're gonna call him Roger. So his friend Roger is his like that's his best friend. They are always together. So clearly, of course, like if I'm staying in Roger's room, then obviously, like, hello, like, no one's gonna think anything of it. You know, it's nothing, like, sexual, and I knew I could trust staying in his place after just what I went through. Like, I'm not just staying at anyone's place. I'm texting Roger, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, like, you can come to my place, like, no problem." I'm like, "Thank you, like, I don't know where to go." You know, because like, I don't live on campus. Come outside your door, and he was like, "Oh, what building are you in?" And I said, "The building." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm outside your door." And then he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm outside the main door." So I'm like, "Oh, maybe he wasn't in his room." So I walk over to the door and it's Rick standing there, y'all. I text the wrong dude. I don't really like save numbers. I still have that problem. I don't save numbers. But yeah, did not save his number and literally was texting the wrong guy. So now Rick's waiting for me outside to take me back to his room when I thought I was going to go meet Roger. I said, "Oh my god." So then I'm like, "Oh, Jesus." So at this point, I didn't care. I just needed somewhere to go. I'm like crying. He's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Because like I had told him what happened and why like it wasn't safe for me. So I'm like crying. And none of my teammates too were answering the phone, by the way, either. In case you're like, why didn't you call your teammates? They wasn't answering the phone. We're walking into his building and we turn, and who do we see? We see Rowan with Kaylee. Now, this here's the thing. Kaylee had a car, and technically I had one, but mine stopped working. Kaylee had a car, and Rowan also smoked weed. I don't smoke weed, and this is one of the things that like why I don't talk to guys who smoke weed because they're fiends. I'm just playing. But no, really they want you to always smoke. They want to be with girls who smoke. They want to be with people who can do what they do. So that's not something that I just don't deal with guys who do, because that was kind of like their connection. She could take him where he needed to go because he didn't have a car down here. His car was still back home. They smoked together. She could take him to get food for his munchies, like that whole thing. So that's why I don't really vibe with that. So literally, we turn the corner. They're standing here. So it's me and Rick, Rowan, and Kaylee. We're all just staring at each other. We walk in. We have to get in the elevator with each other. Everything. Now, mind you, I'm so, like, triggered and scarred and just, like, in shock from what just happened to me that I don't have time to even react. I don't even have time to be upset, whatever, because it was literally that day that they told me that the basketball players had told me about Kaylee and Rowan. Me and Rick get off the elevator, he takes me to his room, and, it was a dorm bed, so it was like a twin, and he was like, "I'm gonna go stay somewhere else, you can have my bed." And I was like, "No, like, I don't want you giving up your bed, like, no." He's like, "No, like, you just went through that, and, like, I want you to feel comfortable and safe. I don't want you to feel like you have to share with anybody, like, here, you can sleep here, like, it's really okay. I don't mind, I got somewhere else to go, like, don't worry about it." And I'm like, are you sure?" So he was just, like, really sweet, and honestly, sometimes, like, when you get, like, real vulnerable in places like that, when people are nice, you're kinda like I kinda wanted him to stay a little bit because I didn't, like, wanna be by myself. He was like, "No, you're good. We got football in the morning, but, like, so my roommate, he'll be outta here, like, soon. Stay here as long as you need, like, you don't have to rush up, like, if you wanna sleep all day, that's fine. You don't have to leave anytime soon, like, you're good." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks." He left, it was, like, a little bit later. I'm, like, laying in bed, and I'm, like, crying myself to sleep. But, like, at this point, I'm crying, like, happy tears because I feel so, like, safe. I was like, "God really got me out of, like, a terrible situation." Like, that could have went so bad where I was if I had to stay there all night and I had nowhere to go. Mind you, of course, we all know what happens when I later in life, so I'm like, "Well, dang." Text me, he's like, "Hey, are you good? Like, I'm just checking in to make sure you're fine." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." His dorm bed, y'all, that was not no Walmart mattress topper, okay? Like, his family had money. He's from the South, so, like, his parents did their damn thing, okay, with that bed because it was very comfortable. I slept very well that night. Went to KU relays the next day. I still was just, like, so in awe. He texted me in the morning, make sure how I was, like, texted me we started hanging out a little bit more and stuff and everything, me and Rick did. I hadn't talked to Rowan in a minute. We fast forward, I actually get to a point where I'm actually able to talk to Rowan. I don't remember now how that happened or whatever, but we finally sit down in the library as always, and I sit and we talk about, like, what happened between Rick and I and all and whatever, and I'm like, "Really? Like, he got his excuses, but you're upset with me because of a boy." One thing I will say I used to always believe, like, "Oh my god, who cares?" Like, football teams are really big. Like, they're super big team. Yes, they all talk, but that does not mean that everyone's, like, cool and besties with everyone. Like, the team is huge, right? Team's huge. So I've always just been kinda more carefree when it comes to football. Basketball, not the case. It's literally two people on a team, okay? So he wants to get to the point playing the victim. He wants to play the victim, talking about how messed up it was. I was talking to his teammate, and that's when I like say explaining my belief. I was like, "Who cares? Like, I'm not even play the same position, like whatever." And I'm always big on like opposite sides of the ball, like it doesn't matter. He was like, "We do play the same position." I was like, "No, you don't. What are you talking about?" He goes, "Kennedy, I'm a safety. He's a corner." I was like, "Exactly. What's your point?" He was like, "Corners and safeties are both DBs. Like we play. I'm his captain. Like we're both DBs." I'm like, "Wait, what?" Pause. Pause a second. He's like, I'm like, "Huh?" He's like, "Yeah, like DBs and corner." I'm like, "Wow." So that's the moment that I discovered that a corner and a safety were both DBs. Okay, there you go. Mind you, this is my freshman year. I just started the sports journalism, didn't know much about football, so give me a break, okay? My favorite thing to do is it's super toxic, but it makes me feel better to get my lick back, okay? And you probably are thinking, "We had Rick." No, 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 no. Let me tell you. So I play like I'm cool, I'm vibing, whatever. I was like, "You wanna go back to your room?" Go to the room, have a whole thing, like, I mean, like, chef's kiss, top tier, you know what I'm saying? Beautiful, like, immaculate. I literally get up and I look him dead in the eyes. I don't even like looking people in the eyes. I looked him dead in the eyes. And I say like this, "I just hope you know that was the last time. I'm done with you." He was like, "Wait, what? What?" After that, yeah, yeah. After that, guess what? It's a wrap. It's done for. I played like I wanted to get back with you. I played like we was cool just to, oh, just end it just like that. Yeah, I did. He's like, "Oh, now he tripping." "Oh, what you tripping for? Why?" "Nah, that's how it goes." So, whatever. Feeling good about myself. He goes back home because, school's out. Whatever. It's now fall. This point, I'm on the soccer team now. So, I'm with my soccer friends. And, fall sports always come early before school even starts. Fall camp. I'm hanging out with my friends. It was like an event. I run into this guy, and his name is Jacob. I love Jacob. Okay, Jacob is he's everything. Like everyone who has known me for the longest, they know about Rowan. They know Rowan is it for me too, but they know Jacob was the icing on the cake. And that is what still to this day bothers Rowan because yeah. I meet this guy, we introduce ourselves. He talks about how, yeah, he's here on the football team, which clearly I knew he wasn't here for soccer. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so basically he starts talking about like we talk about positions. I'm like, what position are you? I'm like, are you a wide receiver? He's like, no. I was like, a quarterback? And he's like, no, but you're close. And I'm like, what? He's like, I'm a corner. I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. None of the corner. Okay. None of the DB. Football team's small. Here we go. Me and him are cool. We hang out. We date and everything. And I'm the kind of person I'm very upfront. Like, I let everyone that I mess with know things like very upfront. So I sat there and I let him know. I said, I just want you to know about Rowan and about Rick. Like, I know they're your teammates in your same position. He's like, I really don't care. Like, I really like you. Like, I don't care. I said, all right, cool. Long as you know, there you go. He and I Oh, he was like the best thing ever. Like the best thing that ever happened to me. I kid you not. He was also from the South. Like it was perfect. And Rick and I, not Rick, Rowan and I were now friends. We're cool, whatever. But the crazy thing about Rowan is I find out from his best friend Roger, we're all hanging out that he's in a relationship. He got in a whole relationship with a girl who lives in Maine from like back home. She goes to school in Maine, but she's from back home. I'm like, who does that? You spilled all this stuff all last spring about this relationship, not needing it and all this. And now you get a whole girlfriend and she goes to school in Maine? That's for ridiculous. Ridiculous. So, I'm upset, of course. Okay. But I'm like, whatever, I don't really care. He's jealous because, of me and Jacob, and like everyone knows, like, he's it for me. Jacob was so sweet. He did so much for me, but that's not who we're here to talk about fully. So, the thing about Rowan is Rowan was cheating the whole time. All he does is cheat. So I'm like, why'd you even get in a relationship, a long distance relationship, if you're just gonna be out here cheating, still in the streets, and your teammates and everyone's still covering for you? But we're friends. We of course have all our classes together again. We just really stay besties and like best friends. And there were some things that happened between Jacob and I. It was like we both did things, but I definitely learned from like my part. So we both left at the end of the semester. I transferred. He did his thing. He now lives really well. I got to see him this summer. I visited him in DC. It was great. Owen and I, like I said, we stayed best friends over the years. We FaceTime all the time. Like my mom loves him. It's always been this thing of like, oh yeah, we should get married. Like, like little vibe. He invited me to his graduation when he graduated college. Um, we literally like we discussed our past finally, talked about it. And the funny thing is we literally read my diary. I was a huge person. I don't call it a diary, a journal. I write down like every detail, like every detail. So it was so weird reading all of it. And I was trying to explain to him like why you bother you, why he hurt me and all this. And like it was insane reading it. Like we just died laughing. It was really funny. He finally moved back to KC. And then I was like, oh, like we were talking about getting a place together, like everything. So we're like we're good. Like we've been good for years. With me talking to other guys in the NFL now and stuff, it kind of was a little bit like I think. But with talking to other guys also in the NFL and stuff, I felt like he kind of felt maybe like he wasn't like as important in my life or special or something. I don't know. He We'll have to talk about that in a whole different episode. So things were a little like, but we still were technically cool. He now has a girlfriend who hates me. Like literally, this girl literally hates me. Why? I mean, I know why. I mean, because I'm beautiful. I get it. I'm just kidding. But no, really, she doesn't like me. He and I have just been friends like for years, everything. Like, y'all know about Wizard Kelly. Y'all know how I feel about him. Like, I would go to him about things between he and I. Like, so honestly, like, her concern was a little ridiculous. And I get it. Some people are that way. But I honestly feel like it's not fair sometimes when people are people's friends to do that. I don't have many friends. And he and I were really close. And like, I mean, there were times, like, it would be weird, like, I'll be laying in bed crying, like, about something, and he just calls. Like, we were good friends, and so now you're taking a friend away from me because you're insecure. She's also, like, super young. She's, like, way younger than us. Like, the girl was still in high school when me and him even met in college. Like, come on now. She's not ready for it. So, yeah, it was a whole thing. She the thing was I was thinking about him, right? I'm laying in bed thinking about him. At this point, I live in Texas now. Don't even live in Kansas City. This man, I get a DM from him. It wasn't him, it was her. Why you texting my man? You already hit my man up or whatever. all this, I know what you're trying to do. Like, you're only concerned because you know if I really like I told her, I said, girl, if I wanted him, he'd be gone. Like, we have history together. Like history. And that's a lot of people don't understand, but a lot of people, there are certain people that I've built certain type of relationships with that there's no one or anyone that can ever come in and make me feel jealous or make me feel any type of way. Like you just can't. And he's one of those relationships in my life. So I'm like, girl, whatever. It's the whole thing. She going off cussing me out. So I text him. I said, "Look, you need to get your little girlfriend. Like, I'm not about to sit here and argue with some little with a child. Yada yada yada. Like, girl, you ain't even on his page. Like, what? Like, don't come at me, right?" So then, of course, she come out. He don't need to text or call you nothing. Like, girl, like, just stop. She's not it, and she knows she's not it, and that's her problem. That's not my problem. So I'm like, whatever. So other than that, like, we had been cool, but that's where we are now, and like, I just really don't like vibe with it. After all these interactions while I was in college with DBs, as you saw, there was 3 of them in the course of not even a full year, it was 3. After that, like, literally when I was in college, everyone I would, like, interact with, all the guys I would meet would always be DBs, except one was a defensive end, like, when I was in college. And I was like, "What is going on? Like, why are these other people that contact me, that find me, like, they're literally the only people that I attract." And I honestly think it's just chaos, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. It's chaos that I was attracting. I have no clue. And out of all the positions of guys that I've ever talked to, the one thing I've noticed is DBs are the most toxic. I don't care what anyone says, they are very toxic, okay? And I think it has to do a lot with their position, what it takes, getting into a wide receiver's head, knocking people off their game. Like, they just don't know how to turn it off. Like, when they're on the field and when they're not on the field. Like, they really just they don't know how to do it. And it honestly stop. But the thing is, I love their position. I literally love the art of a defensive back, from the tackling, from the pick six, the interceptions, like you name it, I love it. I love the tenacity. I just love the defensive back position. It's something about that position that just warms my insides, okay? So I do love the position on the field, but dealing with them in a personal life is a little another story. And this one didn't really have like a full lesson or anything to it. This episode didn't. I just wanted to tell a semi funny story. Yeah, that is my origin story of defensive backs. I made another TikTok and it was like, "Do you wonder if I hate you? Fuck you." That sound. Yeah, I made one. It was like to the first DB that I ever interacted with because that seems to be all that I ever like attract. Like, he put a hex on me. People think I'm kidding. It's some type of hex that he's done to me. I hope you found this podcast episode interesting and entertaining. Just something more lighthearted on this episode. I will see you guys in the next one. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye.